people won't respect what they can predict. If they can read you, they can control you. This isn't about being louder or smarter. It's about becoming unreadable, the kind of mind that watches, waits, and strikes with precision. That's what true power looks like. In this video, you'll learn how to stay silent and still dominate. How to use presence, distance, and control to gain respect without saying a word. If you're tired of being overlooked, this is your turning point. Stay sharp. What you're about to hear, most people will never understand.
The power of strategic silence. Some people speak to be heard. Others remain silent to stay in control. The difference isn't just in volume, it's in purpose. Silence, when used with intention, becomes a weapon sharper than any insult. It doesn't defend, it disarms. You've seen this before. Someone walks into a room and says nothing, yet everyone notices. That's not luck, it's presence built through restraint. A person who chooses silence signals power because they don't need to fill the room with sound to claim space. Strategic silence isn't about passivity, it's a decision. You pause before speaking. You withhold when others overshare. You let people wonder what you're thinking. And in that wondering, they reveal more than they realize. The quiet becomes psychological pressure. Start testing it in simple moments. Let someone talk longer than they're comfortable. Pause longer before answering. Watch how they fill the silence. Most people reveal their intentions just to avoid discomfort. You don't have to confront them, just stay still and listen. In business meetings, silence can shift the entire tone. While others rush to justify themselves, the quiet observer becomes the most respected person at the table. Why? Because what's rare becomes powerful, and silence in a noisy world is rare. Even in conflict, silence holds dominance. When someone expects a reaction and doesn't get it, they're thrown off balance. You didn't shout, you didn't defend, but they start questioning everything. That confusion is control. Subtle but undeniable. Machiavelli would admire this restraint, not because it's passive, but because it's efficient. You conserve energy, protect your mind, and force others to show their hands. The louder they get, the more power you gain without ever lifting your voice. But silence is just the first move. What happens when you combine it with observation so precise? It cuts through deception before a word is even spoken.
Precision observation, seeing what others miss. The most dangerous minds aren't the ones that talk, they're the ones that watch. Observation isn't just about looking, it's about decoding. A raised eyebrow, a shift in tone, a forced smile. These are signals, and most people miss them. A true strategist sees the pattern before it becomes a problem. They don't wait for lies, they spot the fear that leads to them. They don't need confessions, they read the hesitation in someone's voice. Observation becomes prediction. In conversations, pay attention to what's not said. When someone avoids eye contact, changes subject, or repeats themselves too quickly, that's a crack in the mask. People reveal their truth not in their words, but in their discomfort. Practice this in low-risk situations. Watch how people respond when interrupted. Notice their breathing when challenged. You're not looking to judge, you're looking to understand. That understanding gives you an edge no one sees coming. Machiavelli believed that a wise ruler learns more from behavior than from promises. And you can apply that to your own life. Friends who say they support you but never show up. Clients who seem eager but delay every step. Their actions are speaking loudly. The key is to stay neutral while you read. No emotion, no rush, just awareness. Because once you see the patterns, you're no longer reacting, you're positioning. And positioning is where influence is born. Most people walk into a room wanting to be noticed. You should walk in to notice everything. The power isn't in being seen, it's in seeing first. That 1 second advantage, it changes the game. And once you've mastered this level of observation, imagine what happens when your presence alone begins to change the room before you speak.
Presence without words, commanding the room silently. Some people dominate with volume, others with silence. But there's a rare few who don't need either. They walk into a room and something shifts. No words, no theatrics, just presence. That kind of presence is built, not born. It starts with energy, not frantic, not aggressive, but grounded, still. You don't rush, you don't fidget, you move like every step is calculated, even if it isn't. And in a world addicted to noise, that stillness becomes magnetic. Machiavelli would say, "Let others roar like lions. You move like the shadow of a fox." Your strength isn't in showing force, it's in being unreadable. People can't prepare for what they can't predict, so they begin to respect what they don't understand. This presence is a product of self-control. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not seeking approval. And that lack of need makes people watch. They're drawn in, wondering who you are and why you don't chase attention like the rest. You can practice this in daily interactions. When others rush to fill silence, you hold it. When they posture for approval, you stay calm. When they laugh too loudly, you smile faintly. You're not withholding emotion, you're directing it. Notice how this shifts people around you. They start speaking more carefully. They measure their words. Not because you told them to, but because your stillness demands it. That's influence at its purest, unspoken and unforced. Now imagine combining this silent presence with words so precise they cut through confusion like a blade.
Weaponized words, speaking like a strategist. Most people speak to be liked. Strategists speak to be heard. The difference? Intent. Your words shouldn't be random expressions, they should be calculated strikes. Machiavelli believed every sentence carries weight. Use yours like precision tools, not blunt instruments. You don't speak to fill space, you speak to shift it. A pause can carry more pressure than a paragraph. A question, asked calmly, can expose more than a direct accusation. Language is power when you stop using it emotionally and start using it strategically. Next time you're in a heated conversation, try this. Slow down, lower your tone, say less. Watch how the dynamic flips. The louder they get, the more your silence and simplicity gain force. It's not about sounding wise, it's about being deliberate. You also don't need to prove your point. Lead others to arrive there themselves. Ask the kind of questions that force them to rethink. Why do you think that is? Or what led you to that decision? Let them unpack the truth with your guidance, not your ego. Strategic speech is less about convincing, more about directing. You create tension, plant ideas, and let silence do the rest. The smartest thing you can say might be nothing at all, especially when others expect a reaction. Machiavellian speech isn't manipulative, it's intentional. It's persuasion without performance. You're not trying to win arguments, you're designing outcomes, and the more calmly you speak, the more seriously they listen. Even in casual settings, this works. In relationships, leadership, negotiation, choose your words like their currency. The more scarce they are, the more value they hold. And once people associate your voice with clarity, they'll crave it. But what happens when you take that clarity and vanish at the exact moment they expect more?
Strategic disappearance. The influence of absence. Power isn't just in presence. Sometimes the real move is to vanish, not as a retreat, but as a message. When done with purpose, disappearing at the right moment forces people to reevaluate your value. That's not weakness, that's strategy. Machiavelli understood this well. A prince must know when to withdraw. When you're always accessible, you're easily dismissed. But when your presence becomes rare, it becomes sacred. People only appreciate access once it's denied. Imagine this. You're always available, always responding, always present, and slowly you become invisible. Familiarity breeds complacency. But the moment you pull back without warning, they feel the shift. They feel the loss, and that changes everything. Disappearance creates space for your silence to speak. Instead of reacting to disrespect, you create distance. No explanation, no confrontation, just absence. It forces others to sit with their own behavior. That's not passive aggression, it's psychological correction. You can apply this with people who take you for granted, with jobs that drain you, with social spaces where you're unseen. When you remove yourself, you regain leverage. And in that pause, you also see who chases and who never cared. Even in leadership, absence is a tool. Step away from a group or project and observe what collapses without you, not to prove a point, but to measure your real impact. If everything runs the same, you adjust. If things fall apart, you were the foundation all along. But timing is key. Disappeared too soon, you look weak. Too late, you look desperate. Strategic absence requires emotional control. You don't vanish to punish, you vanish to redirect power. Quietly, cleanly, without drama. And when you return, you don't explain. You let your absence speak for you. But what if next time you didn't just disappear? What if you turned their own emotions against them without ever raising your voice?
Emotional mirroring, turning feelings into leverage. The most powerful way to influence someone is to let them see themselves. Emotional mirroring isn't manipulation, it's reflection. When you mirror someone's energy, they lower their defenses. They feel understood. But what they don't realize is that you are already guiding them. Machiavelli would never confront emotion head-on. He'd redirect it. If someone is angry, match their intensity just enough to build rapport. Then shift the focus. If they're proud, reflect admiration, then subtly reposition their confidence to support your outcome. This technique isn't about deception. It's about control through empathy. You study their state, align with it, and gradually steer it. You're not reacting. You're leading their reactions, like a dance partner who makes them think they're in charge while you guide the steps. Try this in conversation. If someone's anxious, soften your tone. If they're defensive, lean in with curiosity. Use silence strategically. Ask, what makes you feel that way? Let their emotion carry them toward self-revelation. You just provide the mirror. The real mastery is not getting lost in their feelings. You stay grounded, even while reflecting. That takes self-awareness. You're playing chess, not therapy. Their emotions are pieces on the board, and you're calculating the next 3 moves. This applies in arguments, negotiations, even relationships. People can resist logic, but not their own emotional momentum. When you reflect their feelings back, slightly shifted, they follow without realizing. It feels natural to them, but you set the pace. Mirroring gives you quiet authority. You're not shouting commands. You're shaping the atmosphere. That's influence. Not through pressure, but through presence. You don't force agreement. You lead people to it, using their own emotional fuel. But once they're following your rhythm, what happens when you give them choices that aren't really choices at all?
The illusion of choice, guiding without controlling. Control doesn't always look like control. Sometimes it looks like freedom. The best way to lead someone without resistance is to let them believe they're choosing. That's not deception, that's design. A well-crafted illusion creates cooperation without force. Machiavelli understood this principle deeply. Give people 2 doors, but make sure both lead where you want them to go. They'll thank you for the freedom, never realizing the outcome was always yours. That's power, invisible, effortless, elegant. In conversations, this sounds like, would you rather start now or after lunch? Either way, you're moving forward. In business, which plan fits your goals best? Both were designed by you. They feel in control, but you remain the architect of the path. This tactic requires subtlety. If people sense manipulation, they resist. But when it feels like autonomy, they engage. The secret? Framing. Use questions, not commands. Guide the narrative without owning it. Make their choice feel like their idea. In relationships, this works just as well. Do you want space to think, or should we talk now? You've already decided to pause, but now they feel included. It's not about tricking them. It's about reducing friction by removing resistance. Machiavelli would advise, let the people believe. Let them feel heard. But you stay in position. The strongest leaders don't need obedience. They create momentum so natural, followers don't realize they're being led. Try applying this in small moments. Offer limited choices that both benefit your strategy. Watch how easily people align, not because they were forced, but because the decision felt safe, familiar, and self-directed. And once they trust the path you've drawn, that's when you stop reacting entirely. You don't need to answer challenges. You rise above them.
Mastering the non-reaction, the strength of stillness. Most people are addicted to reacting. They defend themselves, explain too much, argue out of pride. But true power lives in non-reaction. When you stop responding emotionally, you stop giving people the manual to control you. That's where dominance begins. Machiavelli wouldn't waste time on emotional noise. He'd let others talk, rage, spiral, while remaining unmoved. Because stillness under pressure creates fear in others. They expect fire, but you give them ice. That contrast is unsettling. That's influence. You don't need to defend yourself to every insult. Let people assume. Let them wonder. The more silent you become, the more their mind fills the gaps. And those gaps often haunt them more than any words you could have said. Try this. Next time someone tries to provoke you, say nothing. Don't flinch, don't blink. Let them get louder. Let their discomfort expose itself. You're not avoiding the moment, you're absorbing it. And the one who absorbs controls the tempo. This doesn't mean you suppress emotion, it means you direct it inward. Anger becomes data. Hurt becomes distance. Frustration becomes clarity. You use emotion like a compass, not a detonator. That's emotional authority, and it earns respect quietly. Non-reaction isn't weakness, it's restraint. It says, you don't deserve my energy. You don't qualify for my chaos. And that boundary, spoken or unspoken, teaches people how to treat you, without shouting, without threats. The real advantage is, people reveal themselves when you don't interrupt. When they realize you're not reacting, they either unravel or recalibrate. Either way, you've already shifted the dynamic, not with force, but with discipline. And when you've mastered staying still, the next step is learning when to strike, with precision, not emotion.
Cold precision, when action speaks louder than emotion. Real power doesn't explode, it executes. Machiavelli would never strike out of rage. He'd wait, watch, then move so cleanly the impact echoes longer than the action. That's cold precision, a correction, not a reaction. Most people punish to feel better. You act only when it serves the outcome. If someone crosses the line, you don't yell. You remove them, quietly. No spectacle, no guilt, just a decision. That silence stings more than any confrontation ever could. Strategic correction looks like this. Doors stop opening, messages go unanswered, access is denied, not with drama, but with finality. It's not revenge, it's discipline, and it teaches faster than lectures ever will. Try applying this when someone disrespects you. Don't chase apologies, don't explain your standards again. Instead, change your availability, shift your tone, pull back. Let them feel what they refuse to hear. This kind of action requires emotional detachment.
not numbness, control. You're not cutting ties because you're angry. You're cutting because you've seen the cost of keeping them. And that clarity is power most people will never reach. Machiavelli's influence isn't about punishing enemies. It's about eliminating liabilities, quietly, strategically, without giving them the dignity of your emotion. That's what makes it unforgettable and untouchable. Even in leadership, this approach works. A calm decision to restructure, to reassign, to exclude sends a louder message than any reprimand. The goal isn't fear, it's clarity, and clarity makes you dangerous. Now, imagine combining that clarity with hidden depth, a mind no one can predict and no one dares provoke.
Hidden depth, becoming the mind no one can read. The most dangerous people aren't loud or flashy. They're quiet, calculated, deep, and unreadable. Machiavelli would say, when others can't predict you, they can't prepare for you. That's the real edge, not in what you show, but in what you hide. Most people overshare. They talk to feel important. They explain to gain approval. But every word you don't say becomes a shield. The more you reveal, the more people know where to strike. Keep your depth out of reach, and you become untouchable. Powerful minds don't advertise. They let others guess. When people can't place you, when they don't know your motives, your limits, your goals, they walk carefully around you. That caution becomes a form of respect, or fear, or both. Practice this. In conversations, say just enough to be clear, never enough to be figured out. Let your opinions stay flexible. Let your emotions stay inside. You're not withholding, you're preserving, because not everyone deserves access to your truth. This makes you rare, and rarity builds authority. You don't need to prove you're deep. People will feel it, in your posture, in your timing, in the way they make you think twice before speaking loosely around you. Machiavelli valued mystery as a political tool. You can use it in everyday life. At work, let results speak louder than effort. In relationships, let presence say more than promises. The less you declare, the more powerful you appear. Eventually, people realize they can't figure you out, that you don't rise to bait, that you move in silence, think in layers, and act without warning. And once they realize that, they stop testing you altogether. Because now, the only thing more powerful than your actions is the uncertainty of what you're truly capable of.
You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You just need to stop being predictable. If this video hit something inside you, good. That's your sign to act different, not just to think different. Quiet minds rule louder than noisy mouths. Which of these traits are already yours, and which ones are still waiting to be sharpened? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you're serious about evolving, subscribe, turn on notifications, and go watch the next video linked on screen. The deeper you go, the harder you become to control.